My name is Matt Gleason. I'm the publisher of Coagular Art Journal and the exhibition director at Gallery C. Shepard Fairey is a man who has exploited the notion that art can be anywhere to compete with advertising, and at the moment Coca-Cola is still beating him.
We're going from here.
I see Shepard Fairey's career as a brand promoter on an upward trajectory, but I don't consider it to be on the level of an artist's career at all. It's Coca-Cola is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Shepard Fairey might be making $1 million or $2 million.
You keep on comparing Shepard to Coca-Cola. Why?
Well, they're both on the street. They're both promoting a brand, and at the end of the day, it's a very empty experience.
Do you consider any of the bombing he's done? Specifically the new stuff he's doing, the handmade dollar bills he's crumbling up, that kind of subversive street art. Do you consider that art at all, or just some kind of a propaganda stunt?
Well, at the end of the day, I think that the art experience is to raise someone's consciousness. And at the end of the day, the Shepard Fairey experience is to promote the brand of Shepard Fairey as a corporate entity. So I don't consider it art. The notion that anything is art is a 100-year-old notion. And I'd like to think I'm a little more contemporary than a 100-year-old idea.
So he's got gallery shows now. Do you think that the fact that he has now somehow mainstreamed himself into that art world, that high art world, do you think that distracts from his art, or just makes his art mean more or less, or do you think it's just one big scam? Kind of?
The context of the gallery will always change the meaning of anything you put in it. So you can do a museum of teddy bears, and people will, with that context, consider teddy bears art. And so you can put Shepard Fairey's stuff on the street, you can put it in a gallery, it means two different things. You know, you can use the language of graffiti to promote anything. It doesn't make you a graffiti artist. You know, just because you can point and shoot a camera doesn't make you in the milieu of Ansel Adams. And the original street artists that Shepard Fairey emulates have nothing to do with the same concerns. We're talking about people who were rebelling and using the only canvas possible. And with Shepard Fairey, the man has anything at his disposal. And graffiti is born out of necessity and urgency, neither of which Shepard Fairey knows. The man has no desperation whatsoever. He's a CEO. He's the antithesis of the original graffiti artists.
Is what Shepard Fairey does art or not?
Shepard Fairey, not only is Shepard Fairey not an artist, he's about the furthest thing from art there is. Don Ed Hardy, to me, is an American original within the milieu of illustrating those things that we want. A tattoo is the talisman that you carry with you. It protects you. It's your armor. It's your suit of armor. And so Don Hardy has basically spent his life giving people almost sacred symbols by which they protect themselves. And he certainly has tapped into the consciousness of what people want to carry with them to the grave and beyond. Your tattoo, when you die, you take it with you. It's like King Tut's tomb. All the things you take with you are on you. And for Don Ed Hardy to succeed as well as he has, and for as long as he has, means he's certainly tuned in to a much higher consciousness than just an advertiser. This is a guy who knows what people want to take to the grave with them.
But does that make him an artist?
Oh, he's absolutely an artist. Don Ed Hardy's an artist of the highest caliber because his illustrations they're like primitive. They go to a deeper part of our brain to elevate the highest part of our brain. Don Ed Hardy is absolutely tuned in to where human beings want to be, not necessarily where they are, but also simultaneous. He's tuned into where we've been as a species. Some of these images are disturbing, but they're deep and they're primitive and they're archetypes. And anybody can do a drawing of an archetype, but the fact that he can make one that people would desire to put on their skin and to carry with them it's a far superior method of illustration than just scribbling out something or making like a brand to promote yourself.
Why is he important? Not just in the tattooing world, but also in a fine art world.
Don Ed Hardy is one of the few people who can do a tattoo type art and also make fine art, make a painting that can literally transform your consciousness as you look at it. His art can take you, it can just make your brain bigger and better having looked at it when you see the possibilities of what one hand can do. The human scale, I mean, anybody can make a movie with a film crew of 100 people and some great actors, but, you know, Don Ed Hardy, it's the human scale. It's what one man can do with imagery we can all relate to. You don't need to be in the know or have had certain pop culture experiences to appreciate a Don Ed Hardy. These are archetypes we're talking about. You know, dragons, there's dragons in every culture. There's angels in every culture. There's women and gambling in every culture. These are things that are deep. They're deep within us, and the way he puts them out there elevate all of us. I'm a fan of Don Ed Hardy's tattooing, but I'm also a fan of his painting. He's one of the few Western artists who can completely give himself into an Eastern style. Some of his dragons and his respect for these other cultures on a non-exploitative level. He's not a tourist that's playing around with some methods that are outside of his culture. I mean, he's really understanding and communicating what a dragon is on a level beyond culture, but using the language, the visual language and the artistic tools, the paintbrushes of the East, the looser styles and things. I mean, he's a master. And so it goes beyond just a trivial like art lesson where I can take 3 days in a class and learn how to draw something pretty much as well as almost anybody draws it. But does that make me an artist or does that make me a parrot? When you see a Don Ed Hardy fine art painting, he's pushing. He's actually pushing. He's finding out things as he makes that art, and we're learning as we look at it.
Is Ed Hardy's work art or not?
Ed Hardy's work is definitely art. It's some of the finest art out there. The frustrating and rewarding thing about Michael Salerno's is the fact that when you look at it, you think, can I do this? I could do this. Could I do this? Would I do this? And what he leaves you with is a riddle. And it's never going to be answered. Because you can look at his paintings as beautiful objects, there's no doubt. But then you're thinking, but it's just so simple. The layering is definitely complex, and there's certainly a method that he's arrived at that makes the best looking painting for him possible. But it's frustrating and maddening, but you know, the best thing about art is that it's not a movie that has to have a plot. Art is not, it doesn't have to say something happened. It can bring you an unresolved question that will leave you lingering. I've looked at the art of Michael Salerno for over 15 years, and it's still, some days I think that he's on to like the most brilliant discovery, and other days I think he's a complete charlatan, and it's maddening that I can't come to a resolution. And in that ambiguity, I know that there's some magic there, that most art, it is too easy to draw a conclusion. It's so easy to just say, that's the way it is, or this is a picture of this. It is almost impossible. And I don't know of any artist who really has made a perfectly ambiguous and open artwork as much as he has. And it can drive you crazy, but then at other times you can just go,
And you're an absolutist.
You know, I'm a person who, as an art critic, I wrote a book, Most Art Sucks. I mean, you know, I really go for the jugular. And his art constantly challenges me that, you might not be right. I think one of the things I've always appreciated about Michael Salerno's art is that one piece doesn't necessarily sum up everything he's done, and yet you would be hard pressed to differentiate between most of them. And so there's a consistency there. You know, in baseball, when a player bats 300, it means they failed 7 out of 10 times. So if you can appreciate the consistency of a Salerno to constantly make the same artwork success-wise, visually, it's a pretty difficult task. But you have to think about these things and spend time with it. We live in a culture of immediacy. We want it delivered to us right now. We want the answer. And, Michael Salerno's art is something you'd almost have to, like I said, I've struggled with it for 15 years, and I've arrived at almost no conclusions more than I did the first day I looked at it.
So because of that, do you see a deeper meaning in his work, even if it's unconscious? Or is...
No, I see Michael Salerno's art functioning less on the Western philosophy of meaning and more on the Eastern philosophy of a koan, an unanswerable question. His art is like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? You know, what if a scribble is art? What if just color is art? I mean, what if? What if it isn't? Is this art? That's a tough enough question. It's a challenge. And I elevate him to the level of an artist in the fact that he has constantly produced and is constantly working at this. He is an artist by nature of his production and the fact that he is devoted to this. And so we can believe in him. It's not like he's not a dabbler. You know, you don't see somebody who's made art for 2 years arriving at the conclusions that he's arriving at, or the lack of conclusion. It might actually be harder to arrive at a lack of conclusion than a conclusion.
Soundbite. Are his paintings art or not?
Michael Salerno's paintings and drawings are definitely art of the highest and most philosophical caliber.
Give me a one-sentence description of Valance.
Jeffrey Valance is like an art world version of a stand-up comedian who doesn't realize he's a stand-up comedian.
Which, like a what, Andy Kaufman, like a George Carlin?
No, imagine if someone were funny and we were all laughing at them and they did not intend to be funny, nor they're not in on the joke. I mean, his art are masterpieces of humor, and his art really tells us what it means to fail. That's what his art is about. But I don't think he knows it. I think he's still trying to be a success at failure. Do
you think that matters? Does it still make him a great artist? Even if
oh, absolutely. No. I think in the scheme of human endeavors, he has certainly told us, the viewer, more about what it means to fail and more about what it means to be pathetic than almost any other format. But I don't think he's in on his own joke.
Do you think if you're talking about his work?
To me, the greatest Jeffrey Valance artwork, and it's probably because I was raised Catholic, was he found some saint's image in a tortilla, and he sent documentation of it to the Vatican. And the artwork he displayed was the letter from the Pope saying that His Holiness has seen your investigations and we appreciate it as a sign of your faith. And it was so sincere on the part of the Vatican. But it actually made you think, oh my God, there's like probably, you know, little old ladies in little towns all over the world finding the Virgin Mary in a daisy and sending that daisy to the so it expands like Jeffrey Valance's work, and for me personally, that expanded my understanding of what it must be like to work at the Vatican. I mean, it's almost like you could see the whole scene of like the day they got, okay, we're gonna have to open the box of all the crazy stuff people sent us, and you're just seeing one, and it's kind of funny, ha ha ha, picture of a saint on a tortilla, ha ha ha. Yeah, I'm in on that joke, but there was actually it's working at a much higher level. It's actually giving you insight into like this epic institution on the goofiest little level, and realizing Jeffrey Valance is not the only one who sent him the face of a saint on a tortilla, you know.
Well, that sounds pretty smart to me. It doesn't sound like a failure.
Oh no, but you have to understand, it's the pathetic nature that it's the failure of like there's no saint on the tortilla.
Is Jeffrey Valance's work art or not?
Jeffrey Valance's work is art as much as stand-up comedy is philosophy. Liz Hickox, I wouldn't look at her work as food art as much as shtick. You know, it could be anything. It could be, you know, toothpicks. You know, does anybody have an uncle who makes like little houses out of toothpicks? I mean, Jell-O. You know, at some point, it's just like, well, what are you doing beyond this? Because when I only see one group of work of an artist, that is, you know, it's all one gimmick, it's all one thing. Oh, look. And so she's mastered how to sculpt one medium and to shape it and to light it and to photograph it. But I need to see more. I need to see, I mean, is she going to do this the rest of her career? She's just going to be doing Jell-O? Okay, let's go with that for a while. Well, what does that say about us as a culture, as a species? You know, where is the elevation in this work? I can make a pretty cool replica out of a material that you didn't predict.
Does it remind you of any other art, what he's doing?
The art world is full of people who try to get real clever in order to have real quick success. And it's the equivalent in a movie, when one movie's popular, all of a sudden there's a bunch of knockoffs. And in music, there's like little novelty tunes that sometimes hit the top 10. But there's very little staying power. And, after you get over the, ha ha ha, this is made out of Jell-O, what is there? Is it interesting as artwork? Not necessarily. Liz Hickox art, it's funny in the way that somebody running a red light and almost hitting somebody is kind of funny. There's no tragedy in it because nobody gets hit. It's like, whoa, that's it. That's clever art in a nutshell.
And so it's just frivolous.
I could see somebody buying Liz Hickox art of Jell-O cities as a real kind of a funny thing, or because it matches their couch. But I don't see it sustaining after everybody goes, oh, ha ha ha. So if that's who you are, if you are a very superficial person, oh, ha ha, it's the perfect art for you, and it will tell the world, don't expect much more out of me than a clever little glimpse, because I'm empty inside.
Well, let me ask you a bigger question then, because kids love her shit, as I'm sure you can imagine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Her installations, her photographs, her videos. The kids love it. So if a bunch of art critics are sitting around saying what you're doing is not art, and that's been decided in the high art world, but the masses love it, think it's art collective, want to buy it, who's to say that they're wrong? Why are you guys more right than those guys? Why are
8-year-olds not cops? Why are 8-year-olds not school teachers? There comes a point when what children like may be good for children, but if that tells you and I about who we are as human beings, is the fact that we like something that a child likes, it tells you more about our development. When you like that type of art and your girlfriend is very frustrated with the fact that you won't commit, I'm 2 + 2 = 4. I think that Liz Hickox Jell-O photographs are art in the sense that, clever little flippant remarks are often a great way to break the ice at a party, but they are not the substance of social interaction. Chris Galligan, I just don't see it as art. I see it as like failure.
But describe his art at first. What is he trying at least to do?
I think Chris Galligan has a genuine attempt to try to make art, but nothing he is doing, when you oh God, it's just so not art. How do I explain this? Chris Galligan's art is so weak. I can't believe that you're including it on this show. It's not even it's so lame.
This is the counterpoint. Tell me, what does he do though? He makes these pet portraits for rich.
You tell me. God. Here's the thing. It's like when you're rich, everybody's hitting you up. Everybody's trying to get a piece of the action. Everybody's after your money. Okay. So Chris Galligan to play this naive, oh, I'm an artist. It's how come he's not doing, if he's a true inspired artist, how come he isn't doing paintings of homeless people's pets? No. How come he's going after rich people? Well, of course, he's going after for the money. But it's well, then at some point, where's the art? It's just a technique. And most of his art is in shaking down the rich people who love their pets. When in reality, they're getting something that's completely replaceable. I mean, you could almost just take a photograph of your damn dog. It's going to look better than just some hokey painting.
Okay, 2 questions out of that. First of all, technique versus artistry. What's the difference?
Oh, the difference between technique and artistry is a technique I can teach you, okay? Artistry you're born with, okay? Anything that guy has, if he was born with it, he is completely weak as an artist. There's no doubt. And it's a simple technique. I mean, you can take a class. Anybody can take a class. You could pick a random person off the street, and maybe this will make a good TV show. Take a random person off the street, have the right instructor teach them. They could be making art with 90% of the people out there. And Chris Galligan's stuff is just, it's so run of the mill. Ugh.
you're looking at Freudian slip.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Let me tell you, that guy needs a skipper.
The second question is, you can just take a photograph of your pet, same thing as the painting. But is that true? 'Cause I asked that to his collector. The photograph doesn't capture in the same way what some of these paintings capture.
You know what? Look, once you've hoodwinked a rich person to believe that what they're spending their money on is the thing, you can get away with murder. They do it with expensive sports cars that pretty much have the same engine as the lower model. Rich people can be conned every day, and they are conned every day of the week. Okay, you just have to find the right shtick and the right people, and have your business in the right neighborhood. But an artist painting rich people's pets is not an artist; it's a technician. I know how to give rich people the experience of thinking they love their pet more than they do. Chris Galligan's pet portraits are business. They are business transactions. They're not anything near art. They're in the opposite universe from art. Bad guy. Where's my Darth Vader? There's going to be so many people go, oh, it was a great show. And then this one guy. Oh, God.
Yeah, our biggest expense will be the personal security for you for the night.
Yeah, man, I've had, oh, God, I could write a... Yes. Oh, God. Oh, no. I've made my entire reputation on this. I mean, the book Most Art Sucks. It's like, but there's just too many.
Well, and I read a lot of you online before I called, and everybody loves you. Like you aren't making enemies. It doesn't seem like.
I just fired 23 artists on last Thursday. I mean, yeah. Yeah, no. What I found is in the LA art world, your like of me lessens the higher up you go. So the people in charge of the LA art. Then I go to New York. This is the best part. I go to New York, and all the people at the top of the New York art world love me, and the people down below struggling. Quit rocking the fucking boat. See, then they hate me. So it's a weird paradox. The people in the LA art world aren't really in charge, and the people in the New York art world really are in charge.
Tell me about that. I'm just curious about that. What's the difference between the LA art world and the New York art scene?
You can open a gallery in LA. You could just max out a credit card. You could open a gallery and be somebody. You can't open a gallery in Manhattan. You can't get a real estate deal done in Manhattan unless you're somebody.
Are the people different? Is it just?
Oh yeah. Out here it's better. The scene's better because you can really in LA you can. You don't. It's pure. You can just. Yeah, I'm an artist, and that's cool. When you're living in New York, it's like, well, what do you do? Where are you going? What? You have to have either you have an art career or you're just disallowed. So the whole idea that and the career influences the art that you make. Out here, it's like, yeah, I'm doing this, and now I'm inspired to do that. Big deal, And so, yeah, it's much more wide open. There, you make the art here, you sell it there.
Give me a one-sentence description of Messier's work.
Jason Messier? Okay. Jason Messier to me is one of the highest forms of craft that's out there, but I don't know that I would elevate it to the level of art. But I have very high standards of what art is. He's got a great technique, but to me it's a one-trick pony. It's definitely it's gimmick art, and as fascinating as it is, it's so's a car wreck.
Mall art, maybe.
No, I think the thing about the one thing I will give him is it's not pleasant stuff. It's tough to look at. It's junk. There's a raw aspect to it. Compared to some art that's just so slick and easy. But it's still at the end of the day, he basically has a craft technique where he uses color gradations to define where certain objects go to create a preformed image that he already knows where it's going. So to me, that's just like a technique. It's a craft. It's like a computer it's like playing computer chess. It knows all the moves. So it's much more in that milieu than in the realm of art.
Give me a history lesson. A tradition of artists that have glued stuff to their canvases.
Well, I think the great assemblage artists and collage artists were not going for a locked-in image to be reproduced. So what he's using is assemblage techniques to make a portrait, a realistic image. And he's using glued-on assemblage style to do a realistic rendering. And that's not where historically assemblage has been much more interested in creating the experience of these objects interacting with each other, either on a formal scale of just the color and shape or the conceptual scale of what these objects are juxtaposed next to each other. Whereas his assemblage is actually unifying into a realistic portrait, but it's doing so is just, you could grandma could do the same thing with seashells to make seagulls flying by at the beach. That's craft, that's not art.
A lot of the artists we talked to, Galligan especially, Hickox as well, said because they're just expressing themselves, that's what they're doing, and any expression is a form of art. True? Not true?
The idea that any expression is a form of art, that's basically saying art is like oxygen, and it's everywhere. And that's a very old notion. Everything is art. Every expression is art. And I want to just say no, but okay, let's say everything's art. Well, then there's good art and bad art. Then fine. And most art sucks.
What are the qualifying factors for something to be art?
The problem as a critic is, like a movie critic can rave about a movie, it could be very popular, and 5 years later it's just, oh my God, anybody like that movie? Or they could say, oh, this movie's horrible, and 5 years later they go, oh, that was a precursor to so much of what's going on. That was a great film, So a lot of the times as a critic, you can't have a hard and fast rule. The worst critics are ones that say, oh no, all art has a yellow stripe in the middle. You can't have any, that's the road, okay? You can't have hard and fast rules about what is good, what is bad. There is a lot of response to it and a knowledge of what's happened before, but the number one factor in great art is that it can really tell you about the person who made it, about the society that it comes from, and about all of us. And those are the more that it gives in that factor, the more that you can really look at it and learn and understand, the consciousness elevator factor is the most important.
A lot of these artists talk about their first gallery show. That was for them a graduation into the established art world. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about what a first gallery show means to an artist.
Oh, the first gallery show is like, hey, it's like when a band gets on a record label or an actor gets in a movie, a big role in a movie. That's a big deal. But there's a long way from your first gallery show to like big time in the museums. It's like a long way. How many bands have one album, and then how many of those bands end up having a greatest hits collection? So there's still a long way to go.
But does getting your first gallery show make you an artist? Does it qualify you as an artist?
No, getting a gallery show does not qualify you as an artist, because there's a lot of galleries that will rent their space to whoever put anything on canvas, and there's a lot of galleries that show lousy art just because of whatever reasons they put on a show. So being in a movie doesn't make you an actor. Being in a gallery doesn't make you necessarily an artist. It's a good indicator, though.
If something becomes very popular, if something becomes mass-produced, is it still art?
I would like to think that art is something that can remain on the human scale, and that when I'm looking at an artwork, one person did this. But in the era of the machine, it's hard to reject mass-produced objects as art. It's a challenge to artists to find that thing about them that they can give us all. But simultaneous with that, every once in a while, you will see a mass-produced thing that it just clicks. It just says it all. The problem with originality is you can do something ridiculously hair-splitting and then claim that you're more original than somebody who's talented, who's going over what other artists have done. So, for example, you can say, oh, I'm the first artist who took a stool and left a little stain from a coffee cup on it, you see? And I'm the first artist to do that and show it in a gallery, so I'm original. And then you can find a great landscape painting, and they've been doing landscape paintings for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but if it's a great landscape painting, it's a great work of art,
So it's not a qualifying factor.
Originality helps, but originality is to pursue originality, to qualify as an artist is I've seen many artists go down that road and never come back.
Last question for you. Almost all the artists that we talked to had these elaborate descriptions of their art, explanations about what they were trying to do. As Hickox, for example, with the fragile structures, all these guys are talking about this. How important is what they are trying to get across? If you don't get it, did they fail? Does it matter?
A lot of artists really try to control the context that their work is seen under, and they have specific ideas of what they're doing. And a lot of the time, what they're doing goes so beyond what they think they're doing. And I think the great art always has an aspect of revelation years later. Like, oh, that's what he was doing. And even the great artists don't know what they were doing. And so a lot of the times as a critic, I won't read an artist statement. I'll just look at the art and see how I respond to it. And then if I'm curious, I'll read what an artist has to say. And remember that the art is inherently a need to articulate outside of the verbal. So when something is too verbose, why didn't you write a novel? Why did you make a painting? Why didn't you just write a screenplay? Why did you make a painting? There's something about the visual. And the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The strength of the image, it goes beyond, words can lie to you. And so a picture, we have to hold that picture accountable. And so when an artist starts needing words to justify the picture, something's wrong.